Well, that time of the year, as you've seen already on the season, we have been victimized badly by squirrels and by bear. So it's time to build some new boxes. I'm going to build boxes for 120 and 160, and they're tapered so that they fit one inside the other. You get about twice as many in as you could in a normal situation, right? Anyway, let me get this off. Get this thrown off and we'll get down to business. Okay, so the first thing I have to do is rip up all my plywood. What I'm producing are boxes for, this is the 160 and this is the 120, okay? They're tapered so that they fit one inside the other so that you can carry twice as many as you normally would. If they were square-sided, then each box would take up 12 inches, and this way I can get two of them stacked in 12 inches, so it just makes for a little better travel. First thing I gotta do is rip up a whole bunch of plywood here. I'm using an old plan that I think I might have drawn up on the back of a napkin even. It's, it's nothing very fancy, but it sure as heck works well. Let's get it done. All right, there's my tops, my bottoms, my sides. I'll worry about my backs later. Now I want to get these cut to length. And since the slot that actually holds the trap in is the most difficult part if you don't plan for it, we'll be doing that after we get them cut to length. So now all of my tops, bottom, sides are all gonna be the same length. So now I need to cut up all this stuff I've ripped into the proper length. The sheets of plywood are 8 feet long, so I maximize what I can get out of that. So in actual fact, including my cut, each one of these is going to be 12 inches long. And that'll mean that they'll end up being about 11 7/8 because I got to include my cut so that I get 8 pieces out of an 8-foot length, right? All right, take a look here. We have reduced 4 1/3 sheets of 1/2 inch all down into that stuff. And now I will take and separate out the sides, and we will do the slots for the traps on the side. That's one of the hardest things to do in a tapered box. So now we go back to the table saw, and we put in what's called a dado blade. Now the one I'm using is a single blade, and it's called a Walber because it's actually set offset in there, and I'll show you when it spins, and it'll actually cut a wide groove. You want to be careful working with these. They are very subject to kickback and can make your life pretty miserable in a pretty big hurry. I just got to check, see where my set is on here. I want to set for a 1/2 inch groove. So that I do that by adjusting on this wheel here. And line up here, that's his 1/2 inch, so it's going to cut me a 1/2 inch groove when it goes. Put that on. Always make sure that you're all unplugged and everything when you're changing blades. It could ruin your day. It's the easiest way to show how a wobbler dado blade works. Once again, I am still unplugged. I'm gonna just turn this by hand, but see this? See how that, as it rotates, it's actually gonna cut a big wide fat groove because it's set in there askew, right? All right, I gotta take and put my inset back in and do some dadoing here. Okay, and I just slide it forward until you can just feel it making contact there, see? Okay, so that tells me that that's my leading edge. I will take and mark it like that. And that, I know, is my leading edge. Now, if I want to have a 4-inch dado into here, then I can either move this mark forward 4 inches, or I can move the back and go forward 4 inches. When my back edge gets there, I stop my dado and I lift my piece up out of the way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and set it in there, and it's going to run forward until I get to that point, and then I'm going to lift it off. I'm not going to show you any of that because it's not really exactly safe trade practices. Well, that dado blade does a very quick job of it. I've got the sides done now for both sizes, both the 120s and the 160s. Do not operate your equipment without all your proper guards and that in place. I have them off simply because I can't demonstrate otherwise. You couldn't see what's going on. You can still do the job, but I just couldn't show you what's going on. So make sure that you have all your stuff in place, and especially when you're using something like a dado blade, it's pretty medieval when it's spinning around. So no, I'm just taking it out and putting my regular blade back in here because it'll be what I need next. So the next thing we're going to do is we need to develop that angle. We need to develop this taper, right? So I'm going to do that by cutting my sides. So here's the side, and it's square. I could make a square box if I want to, but if I'm going to make these sides tapered, I'm going to put I need to cut these sides. I think if I look at my plan, I think it's like 5 degrees that I put on it. So from this to this, a 5-degree corner. I will use my big Bosch saw again for that. Okay, now that we got our sides have the nice taper on them, we have to do the same for the top and bottom so that they'll nest together. All right, so all that's left then is to nail them together. I use a 1/4-inch finish stapler. They're cheap, they're fast, everybody has one. Just staple them together. Just make sure that you don't mix up your two sizes. It would make for a miserable day out on the line. Obviously, cutting them out is the biggest amount of work. And obviously, if you're going to build tapered boxes, they're a lot more work than a non-tapered box is. Just because of all of the cutting you have to do. I cut out a few bases, 2 different size bases here. They're just 3/4 inch pressure treated wood, plywood. I like them fairly tight in there. Give them a whack. There we go, there's one, it's the 120s. Away we go. See how nice they stack together. And it saves room. But it is certainly not the only way you can build a box, and it's not the only material you can build a box out of. I don't think there's a wrong way to build a box. It's just as long as it holds your trap nice and secure, holds your bait and lure, away you go. That's the last thing I do, is I drill that hole in the back here, so now I have a nail, big heavy nail sticking out of my tree. I can hang it on there. I'll put one nail down through the bottom here so it's nice and solid. I do it this way rather than nailing it top and bottom, is because, I mean, the bear comes along and they're gonna tear it off. It's easier for them to tear off this way and less chance of them permanently destroying the box. So I just got one more thing I want to show you, and that's my bait screens that I put inside to hold my bait up out of the way, because I set all of my boxes like this, or they might be on a pole like so, but I never ever set them like this so the bait can fall out. So give me half a sec, I'll show you what I'm talking about. Okay, I call it wire screen. These are 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch squares. I see they call it hardware cloth. So I cut them a 1/2 inch bigger than what the bottom of that is on the inside, so that it ends up binding before it gets to the bottom of it all, right? So, my glove is my bait. I throw it in there. I take and shove my trap in, or take and shove that screen in there, and it holds it. It can't fall out. It stops a lot of the smaller animals also that can get by your trap, that don't set off your trap, but they can't pull the meat out and either spring the trap with it or get away with it. So it's just a system that I use. There you go. There is my setup, and there I made 2 dozen of the 120s, 2 dozen of the 160s. I should be good for another season.